Test 1, 2. Test, test. Test, test 1, 2. Test. Hey, Gigi.
Hey, my AirPods went dead. I'm trying to work out my sound. Oh, I've got it on. Oh, I've got it on speaker. Let me just turn you up. How you doing?
Not bad. Getting everything ready.
Hey, Tom. How are you? Admiral Watson? Thank you, Patty.
Test 1, 2. Test.
Hi, Marshall. I hear you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thought I saw my crumpler was on a little bit ago. Hey, Mike. You're muted.
Oh, how are you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, good. I excited about the state attorney being here today.
Me too. Me too. I'm going to have to, during the meeting part, just like leave my video. My mother-in-law has been visiting with us for a week. It's been wonderful. She met her grandson for the first time. By the end of the visit, he was all, because he's a COVID baby. So other than our immediate family, he hasn't really met anybody else. That and the pediatrician. So he at first was a little shy with her, but by the end of the week, he was giving her hugs on his own and happy to see her. So it just, oh goodness, because you never know how long, like she's the last one that's left. So you never know how long you're going to have, like Kev's mom. Like you don't know how long you're going to be blessed to have them with us. So it just was a gift to just have her. Be loved on by, we're trying to get her to move here. Well, we'll see how that goes.
Where's your home?
She's in Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, okay.
Which is why we're invited to the airport shortly, and I'll just be listening in to the meeting. But I wanted to be able to jump in and say hi. And I don't know if you're listening, Admiral Tom, but I'm working on your idea. I've been through a Rotary Peace Scholar, put in touch with someone that can help me further this. Admiral Tom had a great idea to be able to reach out to our youth, really to educate them, to be fully, but the challenge to it is to not have it be political or partisan, just strictly educational and from a Rotarian peace, responsibility, service perspective, because high school students are going to be voters. So if we educate them on conflict resolution and being fully informed and understanding what fully informed means, and we can impact a positive difference.
That sounds very, very important, very necessary.
It is. It is. And it truly isn't a political thing. We can do this carefully and apolitically and have some kind of great ripple effect. So I'm working on what avenue to reach the students would be best. So we may need to start with the nucleus that I can control, and there. But I have been put in touch with, I don't know if you're listening, Admiral Tom, but if you are, I've been put in touch with someone else in our zone who's going to help me with that. But I think the Interact Summit and RILA are captive audiences and great opportunities. So we just have to put a little more thought and energy into it to make sure that it's right. But I've been speaking with my partner about the Interact Summit for the district, and he's intrigued too. So we're both putting our heads together.
Excellent. That's wonderful.
We'll see. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with school starting and this whole mask thing. The summit is scheduled for September. We have a place, but I don't know if it's going to be in person. Like these next couple are a bit of flux. We'll have to see what happens.
Okay.
I am looking forward to hearing today's speaker for sure.
Yes. What was I going to mention to you too? Is today's meeting, is it a live meeting or we're all by Zoom? Is it both?
I thought today's a mix.
Okay. Oh, okay. So we could be there live or we could be there by Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I had a commitment that I had to keep, and so I'm still at my office, so I couldn't get there in time for this. If I started driving, so I just decided to appear by Zoom. But I wondered if we were, because of this recent developments, we were now only Zooming. We're back at the only Zoom stage. Yeah.
My mother-in-law last Wednesday and this Wednesday, her flight and getting her to the airport absolutely overlapped with Rotary. But I'll be honest, I'm going to Zoom until things calm back down, even though personally we're vaccinated and our family's vaccinated. I have one of my daughters was already high risk because she has an autoimmune disorder, but she's got something else going on right now, which makes her even more at risk. So we're going back to being hyper vigilant as a family because we're each other's support system. And she's the one that's got the 18-month-old. So we're their backup. So I'm just going back to just being extra cautious, and hopefully everyone will do the same and the numbers will start coming back down and life can continue.
Yeah, that's the way to be. That's the way. Caution is the better part of valor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That or just pop on a mask. It's, that's still a way to be able to be together and be safe.
Well, and I don't believe the mask is the end all cure all. I really don't. I think the mask can help, but I think there are people who probably got it even with the mask.
Oh, yes. I'm sure because it's nothing's 100%. But
yeah.
Something.
Hey, Jerry.
Hey, Jerry. You're on mute, Jerry.
You're on your mute.
There you go.
Doing well. There we go.
I did the same thing.
It is nice to see you, Jerry. How are you?
Beg your pardon?
How are you?
I'm doing good. I can't complain.
You look good.
I feel pretty good.
You know, I got to share this with Jerry. Our friend Tom Schiffinella is doing well out there at Fleet Landing. I see him because he and my mother, while they're on opposite wings, they're in the same facility.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So Tom's hanging in there. You're on mute, Dave. You're on mute.
Okay, how about now?
Now you're cooking.
Hear you.
Hey,
I gotta
Dave.
learn how to figure this thing out.
Well, you know what it is. It's old dog, new tricks, Dave.
Yeah, I heard that one time. Somebody said, "Yeah, but you get a new dog."
No, it's better to be an old dog. You know, we got to hang in there, don't we? We got to hang in there.
You're right.
How old are you getting to be now? Did you have a birthday just recently, or was that?
I did. 89.
Oh my! God.
Happy.
Two thumbs up. Two thumbs up. Jerry, have you got that beat? Jerry, how old are you now?
I'm 82.
Oh,
I'm a young fella.
you are. You are.
There may not be but one or two people left in the club older than me. I know Clayton Riley is, and Tom Watson is, and Schiffinella probably is.
Yeah, Tom is 93, I think. Tom is getting up there.
I'm not sure who else is in the club that's got me beat.
Those are the, I don't know, how old is Admiral Watson? Is Admiral Watson 89?
He's a year older than I am.
Oh, he's 90 now. Well, good for him. He's on mute too.
He stays on mute.
He could probably hear us, but he's not going to say anything, is he?
Well, I'm hanging around till I'm the oldest.
Excellent. You keep going. You're going strong. Dave Chapman. I don't know if are you one of our latest members? Do y'all see Dave?
I'm actually with Miss Nelson in her office over here. I just wanted to pop in and just tell you guys that she'll be in here very shortly.
Oh, good. Okay. I was going to say, if you were a new member, we're glad to have you.
I appreciate that. Maybe
Saw the new face.
I'm curious, is it possible somebody might be able to give me admin privileges so I could run the PowerPoint for her remotely? We're actually not in the same office or anything at the moment.
Marshall do that. Did you hear that request, Marshall? He is in person.
Yeah, he's going to be, yeah.
I'll text Patty and Marshall just in case they're not hearing us and they've got us muted up on that screen. Dave, just to find that out for you. Let me take care of that for you right now.
Perfect.
Hey guys.
And
Hey Mike.
how's it
Mike,
going?
We can actually see you. That's great.
I'm at my office on my laptop, so I'm in a better place.
Excellent. Well, you're such a big personality when even your comments in chat room without the visual, that worked.
Well, and I have to apologize because I've never been in chat rooms before our Rotary meetings. And so I was really getting into them. I was loving it. It was fun.
Well, the chat room works like tables. You sign in and you just get put in a table. You visit for a few minutes and they take it away.
Mike, I think I speak for everyone when I say your chats were always welcome and enjoyable. So
thank you, Dan. You did a great job as how would you say you were our first president in the Zoom era. We're starting a new era now, the Zoom era, and you're our first president.
I think it's always fun on Zoom to we get an idea of what people's surroundings are like. Some of the angles are pretty interesting, and it's always I miss having. I guess Bill's probably in person, Bill Howie, but Bill always had the opportunity, it was always, one of the grandkids was getting involved. He's eating a gigantic, like a sandwich that looked like something out of, out of Blondie and Dagwood or something, these giant, giant sandwiches. So, yeah, no, it's always fun. But
Dan, I love the pictures on your wall.
thank you. That's it. We're in my office here. So, that one of the rhino is actually the shadow of a rhino. That's not if you saw it in person, you'd see down at the bottom, you actually see the feet. That's just the shadow that casts from the rhino.
Dan, can I ask you a professional question? Dan,
Yes, sir.
we hear on TV that they're killing all the elephants and even the rhinoceri, and I get it for they're trying to get the rhinoceros horn and they're trying to get the elephant tusk. What are we going to do as a world community to stop that?
Well, yeah, those are good questions. I mean, the incentive to poach those animals, because the ivory and the rhino horn are really valuable. So people take a big risk to, the people that are doing the poaching, they're usually pretty desperate people. The exception are the Somali, there's Somali like bands of armed rebel type people, and they're a little bit better organized. But I'll tell you, Mike, what's the advantage is surveillance is getting better and better. Drones and satellites, and they can put tags. With these rhinos now, they're putting transmitters in the horns, and at least you can get on site quicker. The rhinos are in much worse shape than the elephants. Let's put it that way. But yeah, it's pretty desperate. Where we and Jerry, how you feeling these days?
Pretty good, Dan. How about you?
Pretty well.
You doing well?
That person who decided to go over the fence and interact with our jaguar, that's caused us a lot of problems. We have the USDA and the Association of Zoos and Aquariums and the FWC, all of them get involved. Even, when you have somebody who does something foolish. So
What happened? I didn't hear about that.
Oh, a guy in his 20s. I know it's hard to believe, Mike, that a male in his 20s might do something imprudent. That's a shock. It's a shock. But he went over the railing at the range of the jaguar, and he decided he was going to start playing up against the stainless steel woven mesh with the jaguar, and the jaguar snagged him through the mesh and opened up a pretty good gash on his arm. One of our guest service people saw a guy walking around without a shirt, and that's because he had wrapped his shirt around to try to stop the bleeding. And then JSO and JSO got involved, and I don't know if we had JFRD here or not. And anyway, yeah, not someone who wasn't using their head. So, but hey, Randy, congratulations on your award. Well deserved.
Gosh, thank you. Big surprise.
Well, I think
Well
everybody.
deserved, however, well deserved.
Absolutely.
Oh, gosh, thank you so much.
Absolutely. You always do a great job, and you always seem super enthusiastic. I know you enjoy the students and the young people.
It'll be nice to get it back in person next year.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get a lot of things back in person.
Back in. Good point.
Yeah, they just canceled. My wife and I were going to be going back to New Orleans for their Jazz Fest. Their Jazz and Heritage Festival. It's always a great event, but they postponed it into October, and now it's been canceled because of what's going on in Louisiana. So that's a shame.
Who is it that we have with a mask?
Oh, it's Randy.
It's Dr. Thornton. Dave.
I'm at Davis.
Hey,
I'm at the office.
Oh, well, we're not going to breathe on you, Randy.
Oh, I mean, it's all this back to school chaos amidst COVID. So it's hard. But things being, it'll work out okay. Hopefully everybody's gotten vaccinated.
Yeah, we hope.
I hope they're working on it.
Yeah, and I hope that the kids can get vaccinated soon, you know?
Everybody that I see that's not vaccinated, I try to make them feel bad.
Well done. Well done.
Well, you know, I got up in front of I conducted the all-staff meeting a few weeks ago here at the zoo, and I just, you know, encourage people to get vaccinated and let them know, you know, this basic biology. I said, you know, viruses really don't care about what you believe about them or your feelings about them. They're going to keep seeking targets, and they're going to keep morphing to find more targets. Just the way viruses work. It's not, you know, there's no mythology around it. It's really straightforward. So the longer this stays in our midst, the more variations.
It is scary to me how polarized everybody is against, you know, masks or vaccines. And I've come to realize I cannot argue with passion. If you're passionate in your belief that you don't need to be vaccinated or wear a mask, I won't be able to argue with you, but I can at least give you the science.
Right. You can at least let people know about it. But, you know, the good thing is, Randy, is that all of us are going to become much more aware of the Greek alphabet because of well,
that's true.
Goodness.
But we have a family member that's not vaccinated, and when we talk to them about it, the answer is, well, we just have to agree to disagree.
True.
But that doesn't let them off the hook.
It seems
Yeah,
like
go ahead,
seems
Mike.
like this couldn't happen at a worse time. You know, this timing is really hard for this political and all this hard feelings and all this divisiveness. It seems like we could all come together over something, but it doesn't appear to be this virus. And
Every argument that I've heard makes no sense.
Well,
Did anybody, Dave, when you got polio vaccinated, when you got the polio vaccine, when you were young, did anybody argue about worry about getting vaccinated against polio? I mean,
or smallpox or anything. Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
well,
I remember.
I know people. Most people have a annual flu shot.
yeah,
And nobody's told me a reason yet that made any sense to me.
I think the difference is that people don't feel like this is proven. It was put in very quickly, and they don't have confidence that it works and that it's beneficial.
yeah,
Yeah.
Jerry, you hear that argument? You know, the technology behind it and all the effort that was put through it. I think once the approval is official, I think that might help some people. But you know, as Randy and Mike were saying, you're going to have people that are just always going to be resistant. The weird part about this one, though, is they're rolling their own dice. It's not like they're you know, they're putting themselves at risk and their family, especially if you have young children who are too young to be vaccinated. That's the confounding part about it. You know, that you're.
I'm not in disagreement with you, but there are those that figure that it's a plot to eradicate the human race or lower the amount of humans. I just think it's a lack of confidence that it's been tested and proven.
I don't understand what the FDA's holdup is, because if they won't test, there ought to be millions of them by now.
Well, they've tested it. It says it, but it's a process they're going through. I didn't mean to cut you off, Randy. Sorry.
No, I was just saying there's no steps that have been skipped in testing it. It's I tell people it's like when we're trying to get the rocket to the moon. They were trying to beat Kennedy's request to land the moon by 1970, before the decade was out. So to get that Apollo rocket, instead of doing the first stage and the second stage and third stage, they did all the launch at once, and they did the same thing. So it's like a steps up testing. They did the same thing with the vaccine. They did a lot of the testing, all the different steps they combined. Nothing was skipped and nothing was shortchanged. They just were able to do it quicker by dumping a lot of money into it. I mean, the money the government put in, and Trump, if you want to say bad things about him, he put the money into the vaccine development, and it came, and it's working.
I think they're at the podium. I think President
Yeah.
Ike's at the podium.
Oh,
Gigi, you started to say something.
Welcome to the August 11th meeting of the Rotary Club of West Jacksonville. Zoom attendees, please mute yourself and submit questions or comments via chat and unmute yourself so we can hear from you. Our invocation will be led by Rahul Sharma, and then Palmer Bell will lead the pledge.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rotarians, please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and for all of life's blessings. Let us commit to redeeming health and peace around us in this room, in this city, in this state, throughout the country and around the globe. Let our faith bloom among all creeds and races. Let our Rotary service shine to all who observe us. In your name we pray, amen.
Thank you, Rahul and Palmer. And thank you, John Sims, for greeting at the door, Rahul for greeting at the door. Great to see everyone today. Nice buffet. Let's give a round of applause to the club. I would ask Lee Davis to come to the podium for a pop-up.
Thank you very much, President Ike. Hello, everyone. This year I'm on the social committee, and we are looking for venues to hold our monthly socials. And I'd really like to appeal to our business owners out there. If you would like to showcase your business, we would love to have our social at your business. We do it usually from 5:30 to 7:30. We supply the food and the drinks. So please see me after the meeting. I'm looking for places to hold our socials. Thank you so much.
Okay, we've got a new Rotary Club in our district. The Rotary Club of Northwest Jacksonville has chartered. It is not a satellite club, it is a new charter. We're very excited to welcome them into the district. We'll be inviting them to attend meetings with us and sharing details of where they're meeting so we can attend their meetings as well. September 18th at Cecil Commerce Center, North Jacks Rotary is helping sponsor the National POW MIA Recognition Day. It's going to be from 9 to 3. There's going to be food, car show, a lot of things going on, all ages, events for all ages. So if you want any more details on that, I have details, just reach out to me. This week's Family of Rotary Report, Matthew Havner.
Good afternoon, everybody. Let's see. So let's start with birthdays. There is one birthday that I have to mention that's going to happen on the 15th of August. Ed Lombard is turning 93. So we do have an interesting thing. One of our members was actually recognized by a national publication on martial arts called Black Belt Magazine as one of the top competitors, actually the top competitor, number one, in those with 30 years of experience or more. And that would be Drew Bisbee. And I also was impressed that apparently he started when he was 4. So, right? So 10. So, I know you guys, I mentioned 3 stories that I had thought about last week, and we settled on the garbage truck song. This week, I'll tell you about the difference between you and me. So I was sitting there, and Edward and his 2-year-old, actually not even 2 yet, he was about 1.5, Glory, came and was saying, you do this, you do this. And he had a drink that he was wanting opened. And so first he was pointing to the drink. He said, you do this, you do this. I said, okay. I grab the drink and I start to unscrew the cap, and he is melting down, screaming at me, you do this, you do this. And I'm thinking, I'm trying, I'm going faster. No, you do this, you do this. So if any of you have ever seen an old Abbott and Costello routine where, who's on first, essentially he had figured out that we all referred to him as you. Edward, would you like this? Would you like this? Would you like this? So he's you. And I did not understand that. And it created much discomfort in my life when he was telling me, you do this. So finally, my wife came in and said, oh, he means him, which then took another 10 minutes for me to understand what was going on. All right. So that concludes our family of Rotary.
Thank you, Matthew. Congratulations, Drew. Drew and Philippe sit by the door. So if there's any problems with any of you guys, we will go to our Sergeant of Arms report, a little Rahul humor, and then Ken Baker will introduce our program, and we're really excited to hear from Ms. Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before I humor all of you, Stanley Cantor would like to introduce his lovely bride.
Why Sharon Cantor?
How about for Sharon Cantor? I was very blessed to ask to lead us in the invocation, so I'm going to say that my humor today is going to be related to faith and sports. Faith and sports. Father Norton wakes up one Sunday morning realizing it's an exceptionally beautiful and sunny early spring day, and he decides that he wants to play golf. So he tells his associate priest that he was feeling sick and persuaded him to say mass for him on that day. As soon as the associate priest leaves the room, Father Norton heads out of town and goes to a golf course 40 miles away. This way he knew he wouldn't accidentally meet anyone he knew from his parish. When he arrived at the first tee, he was alone. No one near him. After all, it was Sunday morning, and everyone else was in the church. At about this time, St. Peter leans over to the Lord from the heavens while looking down and exclaims, "You're not going to let him get away with this, are you?" The Lord sighed and said, "No, I guess not." Just then, Father Norton on the golf course hits the ball, the shot straight forward toward the pin, dropping just short, rolling up, falling into the hole. It was a 420-yard hole in one. St. Peter from the heavens is astonished. He looks at the Lord and he asks, "Why did you let him do that, O Lord?" The Lord smiled and replied, "Who is he going to tell?" That concludes my report. Ken Baker with the introduction for today's speaker.
Thanks, Raul. It's an honor for me to introduce our speaker today, State Attorney Melissa Lewis. In 2016, the citizens of Clay, Duval, and Nassau counties overwhelmingly elected Melissa Nelson as State Attorney for Florida's Judicial Court. She pledged to bring her tough but fair approach to office while working to restore the public's faith in the judicial system. Nelson established the Targeted Prosecution Division and tasked it with aggressively prosecuting the most dangerous drivers of violence. Nelson also championed building the Crime Gun Intelligence Center. It has been called a game changer for law enforcement. These efforts aim to make our community safer. Nelson is committed to the pursuit of justice for all. She started her career as an assistant state attorney in 1997 and spent 12 years prosecuting cases ranging from misdemeanors to capital homicides. Nelson was appointed by Governor Ron DeSantis to the statewide task force on opioid drug abuse. She also serves on the U.S. Bureau of Alcohol, Firearms, Tobacco, and Explosives National Gun Crime Intelligence Governing Board and the Florida Cold Case Advisory Commission. A native Floridian, Nelson earned both her undergraduate law degrees with honors from the University of Florida. She and her husband, Jason, live in Jacksonville with their 3 children. Please welcome State Attorney Melissa Nelson.
Can everybody hear me? Looks like, okay, great. I'm off. Thank you for having me today. And let me say, I'm sorry I am not with you in person. We converted this to Zoom last week. As we started seeing the spike across Jacksonville, our office is suffering the same spike that we're in fact seeing across the city in Northeast Florida. So we decided to go ahead and convert everything to Zoom, and it's a good thing we did because I am fully vaccinated, but we're being extraordinarily careful and aggressive in our contact tracing. And we've learned that I have in fact had a primary exposure with a breakthrough vaccinated case, but would have been at home anyway today and would have had to have canceled an in-person appearance. So I'm sorry I'm not with you in person, but I'm happy to be able to do this by Zoom. I have a PowerPoint that hopefully will work without any trouble today, and you'll be able to hear me talk about what we're doing at the state attorney's office. Before I begin, I have to say a couple of things. Matthew Hevner, when we've never met, but when you took the podium, I almost fell over hearing your voice. You have such a likeness to your brother. I immediately emailed Mac and asked if he had a relative named Matthew. He tells me that he's your big brother. So that was funny to hear your voice. And also I see on Zoom, Alton Yates, we have never met. But I'd love to talk to you offline because we would be very interested in the office having you come speak to us. And now that we can do it by Zoom, even if it's by Zoom. So it's a pleasure to see you as well. And I know I have many friends in this group. I was running this past weekend down in Ortega Farms, and there's a couple of your members who had proudly displayed signs in the front of their yards that they're members of your club. So I thought that was pretty neat. Today, I'm going to give you a brief overview about what COVID has meant to the court system, just one slide. Then I'm going to talk to you about some, I would say, I find it challenging news about the violence in our city. I'll end that discussion with some actually very positive news about the outcomes that we're seeing, hopefully related to some of the things that we've been working on in the last 4 years. I'm going to shift then after I talk about violent crime and what we're doing at the state attorney's office to address it. And I'll share a little bit about what we've done in the vein of smart justice, criminal justice reforms. And I'll close with an anecdote about our conviction integrity review. That's my plan. I know I've been allotted 20 minutes, and so hopefully we'll move through these slides pretty quickly. I do want to say that some of the slides I'm going to show you, while none are graphic, some of them are, I would say, alarming. Some of the slides I'm going to show, all of the slides I'm going to show you are actually taken from some of the social media that is now publicly available. And all of the young faces that you are going to see in these slides are African-American. And I've had somebody actually say to me, are you comfortable sharing these? Are you sending the wrong message? And I'll say this about our violent crime problem. You heard in the introduction that we stood up a unit called Targeted Prosecution. And the goal is simple in its name. It's to target the crime drivers. And we know as a matter of fact, not as a matter of theory, that our drivers, we know where they are geographically. We know where they fit in age and race. And our main violent crime drivers fall in a, young man, start in juvenile up through mid-20s, African-American, many of which are in gangs. So I'm going to talk about gangs, but our victim demographic is also African-American. So when we talk about this problem and what we want to do to combat this problem, to the extent that in showing these slides today, anybody takes offense, they are not intended at all to offend anybody. This is the reality. And we are dedicated. This is, I will say, of all the priorities I've had, hopefully when I leave office, having done something positive to this problem in our city, I will feel fulfilled. I'm very intrigued about that age. My husband and I have 3 kids. I have 2 sons, 12 and 14. And I'm very intrigued about that moment in time that a young boy decides to pick up a gun. And the guns we're seeing in the shootings here in Jacksonville are obviously no longer revolvers, and they're not even semi-automatics. They're AR-15s, drum magazines, high capacity magazines. And so we have, I'll talk about some of the things in a short bit about what we've done, but we're focused on both obviously the enforcement leg and taking the shooters off the street, but we're also very focused on the prevention and intervention. If we can get to that young man, that kid, before he makes that choice and redirect the trajectory of his life, that is a main goal. Obviously, those prevention and intervention are lanes outside of my authority, but they're concepts and principles that you often hear me publicly give voice to and support to. And our office has done some pretty non-traditional things in the vein of partnering with nonprofits, making sure that our prosecutors and staff are participating on boards of nonprofits that are actually geared towards prevention and intervention. But we'll talk about that in a bit. So I have David Chapman, my communications director, on the line, and I think he has admin privileges. David, if you'll go ahead and share the screen and pull up the PowerPoint. Can everybody see this? Okay. Go ahead to the first slide, David. Okay, so COVID-19, we are back in court in person, and we are trying cases with juries again. But for the majority of 2020, when we were down working remotely, arrests didn't stop. People still committed crime. And as you saw across the country, we were not unique in that we had an uptick. I'll show you the stats shortly, an uptick in violent crime. And you saw that across the country. And so arrests didn't stop. And in our office, we have to make a decision about whether or not to institute formal prosecution after an arrest is made. And so our job of making decisions didn't stop at all last year, though going to court, we were in court Zoom, but trying cases did stop. And so what that meant was an increase, a steady uptick in criminal cases. The jury trial in our world, is the thing that makes cases resolve. When people know there is a trial set, that is the impetus for case resolution, whether that be through a plea or indeed a trial. But it is the reality of the jury trial that actually helps us resolve cases. So for much of the year last year, as arrests continued and our jail continued to fill, we resolved some, but we were unable to resolve cases at the rate we normally do when we have hundreds of cases set for trial every Monday. So speedy trial had been waived indefinitely. We now have about 4,500 felony pending cases. Our jail, as you probably have read, is indeed full right now. We worked very hard last year in partnership with the jail and the sheriff's office to make sure that we were getting people released and getting people out of jail who didn't need to be there, and resolving what I'll call low-level cases quickly. But this backlog of cases is going to be with us, we expect, for at least the next few years in front of us. It's daunting. And this is not obviously unique to Jacksonville. My colleagues across Florida and across the United States are dealing with this. So that's the impact of COVID on the court system right now. Go ahead, David. So I mentioned to you that a priority has been violent crime. Last year, this is a percentage change in homicides across the country. You see in California, in one jurisdiction, there was 150% increase. These are super significant. Jacksonville, unfortunately, we made it on this list. We had a 6% increase in homicides last year. What we are seeing right now is very promising, because while all of these cities, I was at a meeting 2 weeks ago with all of the district attorneys or elected state attorneys in most of these cities, they're still experiencing this increase in violence. And they are really struggling with what to do, and as are their law enforcement partners. We, on the other hand, while we did experience this uptick last year, consistent with what everybody else saw, this year we're down. We are down. I'm gonna look at these most recent statistics. Year to date in aggravated battery, so that's shootings where bullet meets flesh, but there's not a death. We're down almost 17%. In homicides, we're down 31%. And in robbery, we're down 17%. These are very, very significant. And I continue to say, knock on wood, because we're still, we're closing at the end, but we're in the middle of our hot months where we see an increase in violence. But we're now far enough in the year that this is very promising. And I would like to think that this is in fact due to some of the things that we've put in place. I will say these changes, these statistical drops, in my mind, are even more powerful in light of the fact that we're an outlier, that these cities are still seeing an increase in violence, and in here in Jacksonville, we're actually seeing a decrease. Okay, if you can go to the next slide. I play this slide. This is an old slide now, but when I say it's old, it's still going on. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about ShotSpotter and the technology of ShotSpotter. Some of you may have seen me give this talk and use this slide. I think the sheriff also uses this slide in some of his talks. That is a real exchange of gunfire that was captured through something we called ShotSpotter. So in the city, in certain geographic hotspots, the city has invested in ShotSpotter, which is equipment that captures gunfire and can distinguish it from a car backfire or whatnot, and immediately calls it into 911. And those of us in targeted prosecution in the sheriff's office who are dedicated to the violent crime initiatives, we actually have this technology on our phones, and within seconds, we actually get a location of where the shots are fired, and we can hear, just like you heard there, whatever the exchange is. This statistic is pretty alarming to me, and it has held over, since 2017. So what we are seeing is less than 20% of gunfire in these areas is actually reported to 911. So I often say, if any of you on this call heard gunfire like that outside of your house, I imagine every single one of you would be on the phone calling 911. And I'm curious about this. I don't know if it's due to apathy, fear, desensitization, or a combination of all of those things. But it's incredible to me and distressing to me that there are children in our city who are going to bed routinely listening to gunfire like that. I mean, that sounds like a war zone to me. And that is their norm. And so I hope we can, as a city, change that norm. So I'm going to show you a ring video. If you'll go to the next slide, David. So you saw in the corner the gunfire. This was caught on a ring video in a neighborhood on the north side. I'm not dramatizing, I'm not exaggerating what's going on in our streets. So what do we do with this ShotSpotter RDO? So the call is made to 911 where before maybe a call didn't go in. We've actually saved lives as a result of this because law enforcement is immediately dispatched, and they have on occasion rolled up on somebody who's been shot, and otherwise there might not be an attendant 911 call for rescue. But even if there's not a victim, and I will say the good thing about what's going on in Jacksonville, these men shooting each other, you saw in that first gunfire, nobody was hit. They are not good shots. And I cannot imagine what our aggravated battery and homicide statistics would look like if they were. But nonetheless, we go out there and law enforcement is dispatched to every ShotSpotter call, and they are charged with picking up the brass off the ground. So all of the casings, because ShotSpotter can pinpoint the location of the shooting, law enforcement goes, they pick up those casings and they enter those casings, they turn those casings over to the property room, and we enter them into the NIBIN program. So NIBIN is a technology that we've had available to us for frankly 2 decades. FDLE, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, our state laboratory, has had the ability to test casings and identify whether or not they were fired from a particular firearm. And as prosecutors, we've historically used that technology as probative evidence of guilt. So, and it would take we'd have to have a firearm, a recovered firearm, and a casing, and we could make a match, and we might tender that in front of a jury. We've completely turned that upside on its head. We're now using this technology as a lead generator. And what I mean by that is we take those casings, no matter if we have a shooter, no matter if we have a victim, no matter if we know nothing about the shooting other than it occurred, and we put those casings into this system. It's a database, and it's growing every time they pick up casings and they put them in there. And what we see when I say a lead generator is now all of a sudden we can garner intelligence from those casings. If that firearm has been used in a shooting 2 days before, 2 weeks before, 3 weeks before, 2 years before, and we have casings related to that shooting, we see a match. That doesn't tell us who was pulling the trigger, but it's a piece of intelligence and a piece of evidence that law enforcement can use to further an investigation. We've solved multiple shootings that otherwise would be unsolved by using this technology and generating leads and evidence. So it is simple that if we know a gun was used in 3 shootings, and again, crime guns can change hands. So we might not know it's the same shooter, but we have information related to 1 shooting. We have some information related to a second. We might have, or not, on a third. We can put all of that together. It also allows law enforcement to make sure we have a lead investigator compiling all of this information and putting it together. A couple of years ago, we went to City Council and the mayor's office, and we asked for funding both for NIBIN to use it no longer. Please, the state lab serves, I think, 14 counties. Would the city invest in this? And they said yes. So they invested in this, and now we're using it for the beaches, Jacksonville area. We allowed Clay and Nassau, if they have shootings, to also put their casings into the system in Jacksonville. But it is for Duval County's use. The other thing we asked for was for funding for a crime gun intelligence center. That was built out. It took about 2 years, and we cut the ribbon a couple of years ago. That's in the state attorney's office. And then we at the state attorney's office stood a unit up called targeted prosecution. And the goal of that division is it's staffed with our most experienced, and I'd say most aggressive lawyers, and they're embedded with our law enforcement partners. I often say that, we come on the scene after the bad thing happens, after somebody gets hurt or robbed. That's when our file opens, if it's solved and an arrest is made. The concept of targeted prosecution is that our prosecutors work hand in glove with our detective partners from the beginning of a shooting like this. So every week we have a Crime Gun Intelligence Center meeting. It's staffed with detectives, both local, state, and federal detectives. It's staffed with our prosecutors in our targeted prosecution unit. It's staffed with some of our prosecutors in the juvenile unit. That's really important in handling these cases. And every week they share intelligence that they are gleaning from NIBIN technology and the investigations they're working. And we're seeing, I'd like to believe, we've made a couple of very significant arrests over the last year of tops of heads of some of the organizations I'm going to talk about. And I have to believe while they're on the inside, it is contributing to the precipitous fall we're seeing on the outside. If you'll go to the next slide. All of these photographs are photographs. You see the man in the top left, he's gun in each hand here. All of these photographs are still shots taken from videos that you could find on YouTube yourself. And all of these were taken here in Jacksonville. These are all young men from Jacksonville. They are all gang related, affiliated with gangs. And all of these young men are either currently dead themselves or in prison. A couple of summers ago, so you heard that I was at the prosecutor's office right after law school. I stayed there for 12 years and I left in 2009. And I tried plenty of homicides and lots of shootings. But when I came back, there had been a shift. When I left in 2009, it was, early on in the advent of social media. When I returned, this is the way now. Violence among these groups is both celebrated and threatened. So they make these rap videos. Some of them are professionally produced. Some of them are very clever and quite good. And they put them out on YouTube, and both they, as I said, celebrate murders or shootings they've committed, and they also threaten them. You'll see there's a drawing or a photograph of a young man's face on the shirt of the guy in the top shirt. They'll often wear t-shirts honoring the memory of somebody in their gang, and the groups continue to perpetuate violence against one another. One of the novel things, I'll say novel because we're one of only 2 offices right now in the state of Florida doing this, is the other thing about all of these young men is they're prohibited from carrying firearms. They were all convicted felons. And so they're not allowed to have a gun. So they thought it would be cute when they post these videos. On all of these videos are posted with qualifiers before the videos play that say something along the lines of the guns are, props in these videos. And because of that, we weren't doing anything about this. So when I came back and realized that this is the way threats were being exchanged, I spent a whole summer with, my earbuds in and just watching randomly these videos. And then I had our forensic artist put together a compilation of them. And then we used our gang detectives to identify all of the young men. And I think at the end of this one video we put together, there were 14 young men, and every single one of them had been, by the time we put the video together, just like these young men themselves, either been the victims of homicide or were in prison related to shootings. But it occurred to me, if they're prohibited, we arrest people and prosecute people for having guns when they're prohibited by law from having them, then why weren't we prosecuting these people who were so flagrantly displaying firearms they're not allowed to have? So we had, again, turning, ideas upside on their head. We went to FDLE and said, okay, if we don't have the gun, can we make a case that this is a real firearm? We found an expert witness in South Florida who has spent his career with ATF, and he's been all over the world in gun manufacturing plants, is incredibly familiar with every kind of make and model of firearm. And there are indeed some firearms that there are mock-ups on the market, and we would not be able through a photograph to distinguish whether a gun is real or not. But there are plenty of firearms that there are no mock-ups on the market. And using enhanced video technology, he's been able in several cases to look down the barrel of guns and identifying certain aspects of a firearm so that he can opine whether a gun is in fact real or not. The other thing we've done in these cases is we've tracked down the people who've been on the other end of the camera producing these videos, who will often tell us, oh, everybody, you know, like completely, I had them all unload their ammo before we shot the videos. But these videos are being shot on the streets of our neighborhoods. And so it took a lot of time and effort. And I was, in fact, criticized in the newspaper for doing this. Several academics said that it was, you know, hadn't been done before and they didn't think we'd be successful. But we arrested a series of people for possessing firearms by a convicted felon for putting their social media videos out where they are carrying and displaying these weapons. And we've been successful. Not only have we had several plead, we also have tried them in front of a jury. Recently, we tried a man and our expert testified, and a jury swiftly came back with a conviction. So these are some of the things we're doing as well to send a message that, and now what they're doing, actually, there's a video that recently was published in Houston by some folks I'll show you in a second. I won't share the video, but making, we believe, fun of the fact that we're now prosecuting these cases. So they had toy guns in the video. But Dave, will you go to the next slide, please, for me? These are the children over the course of, gosh, the last decade, who are have been caught in crossfire. So when these groups, you know, go after each other, our gang experts here say, arguably, that the groups that we have here in Jacksonville are arguably more dangerous, for example, than the Bloods and the Crips. And that's because well-organized gangs actually abide by a code of conduct. There's a leadership hierarchy. You know, no innocents, no kids, and no blue are part of that code of conduct. They'll argue here we have less organized gangs. Ours are actually more group. They affiliate with the Bloods or the Crips, but loosely. They don't have the same hierarchy, and they do not abide by the same rules of conduct, code of conduct. So these are just some of the young children who have been caught in crossfire. Next slide. So I'm going to play, David's going to play this for you. Young and Ace and Fulio are both from our jurisdiction, and they're both young aspiring rappers. They both are associated with local gangs. They're neither, one's in Texas now. I can't remember where the other is right now, but they are, I was on summer vacation, and my cousin who lives in Kansas City was sharing with me an NFL player tweeting about the beef going on between these two young men from our area. So it's known nationally. And we're going to play a little clip for you from a young kid here in Jacksonville.
Like, y'all need to stop all this violence talking about each other's dead relatives, because I know in some part of your heart you feel messed up. Just how I said I wasn't on no side, like when I heard them talk about how baby got on the floor and he was crawling screaming, please don't shoot me, it was sad because you laughed at it like it was a joke. Death is not a joke. Death is something you don't want to play with, because when you die, you're gone. Let me tell you somewhere to go at. Go on Moncrief Road on the north side. They got so much shootings, bro. That's exactly, baby got killed in 45th Street in Hilltop. You go to Hilltop, you're gonna find somewhere, because that's Ace or Fulio, like, they just need to both talk to each other, have a sit down talk like a man, because they're getting older. They shouldn't even have to buck it out. They already did so much damage to each other.
What would you guys want to say to Young and Ace, if you could say something to them?
Quit the violence. My mom, know your mom. Just quit the violence. Like, we don't want to get into this, and especially when we live close to your block, that's not.
So I've talked for some time, and that's more compelling than anything I could share with any of you today. So that's why sometimes I look up at my ceiling at night and wonder like what we can do. And we are trying. And I believe that the collaboration going on too, the city making the investments they have, we have a great working relationship with our law enforcement partners and that we're sharing information. I don't think anybody in this fight cares about who gets public credit for it. And so I'm hopeful that this, in combination with, the attendant prevention and intervention efforts that are also ongoing, you've heard about Cure Violence. We're seeing some very positive feedback from that initiative. I'm hopeful that that's maybe what's giving rise to the drop. If you'll go to the next one, David. So I've talked about all of this. We can go to the next one, talking about using technology in investigations and prosecution and the Crime Gun Intelligence Center, the novel prosecutions. I haven't mentioned the Community Crime Strategies Unit. I'll just briefly speak about this. We've been really hindered by COVID, obviously, in doing this work, but it seems to us that, we need to have a presence. And when I say we, the state attorney's office needs to have a relationship and a presence in these most challenged neighborhoods and communities. Before we slap a subpoena on somebody and yank them into our office to put them under oath and, take their testimony, we can't obviously know every person, but we need to have introduced our office to the neighborhood so that they have hopefully a positive perception, and even better, that we would have credibility with them. The goal of the Community Crime Strategies Unit is to make sure that our office is in our most challenged communities, getting to know our faith leadership there, our entrepreneurial leadership. I describe it, the little old ladies on the corner. That's our ultimate goal, that we would know those folks in those neighborhoods and they would know us. And hopefully for whatever reason that you see people not calling for help, not calling in when they hear gunfire, we experience the same thing when we're trying to put together a case. Often people tell us they didn't see anything, they don't know anything. So the goal of this unit is to actually develop credibility, trust, and relationships with people in these neighborhoods before that bad thing happens. So stay tuned on whether or not we see success with that. I've talked about prevention and intervention. And lastly, we've engaged in a year-long planning process. We're a year into a 3-year strategic plan for the office. It maps out 5 major goals. One of the major priorities is attacking the violent crime. Okay, I'll shift gears now. That's what we're doing related to violent crime. And the good news again is that we're seeing a pretty marked drop in Jacksonville. And I know that criminologists will be studying for years to come what gave rise to last year's drop. People are starting to write on it right now. You may read there was a piece in the Wall Street Journal a couple of Sundays ago attributing the rise in crime to the withdrawal of policing. I think that's a very fair theory that, policing has been less proactive, both because of the civil unrest and the rhetoric around policing, as well as COVID. And so as police withdraw, you see crime go up. There's certainly credibility to that. There's other criminologists who have other theories, but lots of people studying this right now. We're seeing a drop. So, okay, shifting gears. Next slide, David. We talked about NIBIN. In the vein of, I'm already at 1:30. I've talked for a while. Do we want to? I was supposed to just go till 1:20. So,
Rotarians, we have time for 2 questions. If you could just raise your hand and I can bring the microphone over to you if you have a question for State Attorney Melissa Nelson. No questions in the room. Marshall, if you want to check the Zoom chat, if there's any questions from our Rotarians via Zoom. No questions via Zoom. I'm going to send it back over really quick to President Ike.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, Ms. Nelson. Tremendous presentation today. Really, really appreciate you doing this for us. We have a lovely speaker gift for you. We'll give it to you when you can attend a meeting in person with us. We look forward to that. Thank you so much for doing this for us today. Next week, be sure and join us here as we welcome Brandy Carvalho from White Oak Plantation. White Oak Plantation is the conservatory out at the state line, and they do tremendous work out there, and they've recently acquired all of the Barnum and Bailey elephants to the conservatory out there. So Brandy will update you on that. I would like to ask Doug Milne to lead us in the four-way test.
Test of the things we every day think, say, or do. First. Second.
Fair to all concerned.
Third.
Will build will and better friendship.
And fourth.
Will be beneficial to all concerned.
Thank you again, Ms. Nelson. The quote of the day is from humorist Andy Rooney. Vegetarian. That's a Native American word for lousy hunter. Have a great week.
I look forward to getting with you, Ms. Nelson. I will be calling.
Bye, everyone. Stay well.